Hey now! What is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and I just got done watching Smallville for Smallville Rewind. This episode is titled Drone. And I gotta admit, there was a part of me that when I started this episode, I needed it to be a banger. I needed it to be one of the really good Smallville episodes that took me on a fun ride, whether it was emotionally or just in general. Because the last episode, I didn't hate it. I'm not gonna say it's terrible, but it wasn't one of the better ones. So I was hoping to get more from this particular episode, and I'm not sure I did. I think it was better than the previous one, but I'm not sure it was like a whole lot better. So at the beginning, we see that the school is starting elections for school presidency. And I vaguely remember that being a thing in my school, but it's not something that I paid too much attention to or cared too much about. So, yeah, this all seemed like it was like a really big deal. One of the candidates, one of the leading candidates, he gets attacked in his bathroom by, I think Chloe said he was stung by 100 bees. God damn, I was expecting them to say he died. I couldn't believe when Chloe said that he's in the hospital, he's expected to make a full recovery by the fall. I'm like, really? Is he? Okay, Chloe, if you say so. That whole sequence of that kid being in his bathroom and looking around and he's hearing the bee noise, which, by the way, the bee's noise gives me the heebie-jeebies. I don't like to hear it. But that whole scene of trying to figure out where it's coming from, and it comes from the sinkhole and attacks him. Mind you, he screams and he has his mouth open the whole time. Like, dude, close your fucking mouth. You're being attacked by bees. Why are you screaming with your mouth wide open? Ah! But that scene felt like another scene right out of Supernatural. I know Smallville preceded Supernatural by like 4 or 5 years, but because I've watched so much of Supernatural, well past Smallville, I can't help but now bring that into this. Pete nominates Clark for presidency. Now Clark is in the running. And I kind of liked the fact that Pete was saying that, oh, well, me, Pete, I'm not able to be front and center. I'm not able to be like the main star. No, I'm behind the guy. That's the main attraction, right? Clark, he's good looking. Everyone likes him. He's likable. It's like, are we talking about the presidency or the show here? Because that's hilarious. Also, you get a whole sequence of other characters talking to Clark as if, hey, this is a good idea. The Kents, Jonathan and Martha, they tell Clark that they love the idea of him running for president because he doesn't have to worry about his powers the way that he does with football. And Martha said something about this is something that he can do as far as a school activity and feel a part of something, feel important. And then it's not until Lana says to Clark, "Oh yeah, you'd be great at this, Clark. You're caring. I can see on your face whenever something happens, when you react to somebody being wronged, that it matters to you." It's not until Lana says all of that to where Clark goes, "Yeah, I can be school president. Yeah, she's right." Even though 5 other characters said the same exact thing, but because Lana said it, now it seems like a good idea. And also the fact that Chloe does not give a damn. And she basically calls Clark out. When Clark says that, like, Chloe, you're the only one that hasn't been supporting me or hasn't been saying anything nice about me running. And she goes, well, Clark, it's because you don't really know what you're doing. Because you're not the best person for this job. Because I don't know where you stand on a lot of these political points. And when Clark says, well, what do you want to talk about? What points? And she just starts listing thing after thing after thing after thing, and Clark is just overwhelmed. He's like, but then I could, and Chloe's like, nope, you're way too in over your head. And one person might say that Chloe's being a little too harsh on Clark. This is one of her good friends, but also because they are that good of a friends, it does kind of make sense that Chloe is trying to be that real with him, that she is trying to say, like, look, dude, I'm not going to gas you up, I'm not going to boost your ego, I'm going to tell it to you like it is. And that also fits Chloe's character. I felt bad, though, because obviously Clark was offended And there's a scene much later on when Chloe tries to go up to Clark and Pete at the lunch table, and it's so awkward. She says hi, and Clark just looks at her for a second, and then says hi and looks away. And Chloe, Allison Mack has this look on her face like she feels like shit. She feels genuinely bad that she hates the fact that Clark is treating her this way. Therefore, I'm hating the fact that Clark is treating her that way, and it hurts. It upsets me. I don't like to see these two not get along. Even Pete, the little asshole, says something like, "Oh, Clark, be careful what you say because she might report it in a way to make you look bad." I'm like, God damn, aren't you guys friends with her? I know Clark felt a little betrayed, but it's funny because Chloe tried to explain it to Clark as like, hey, I just think that this other kid, the one who got stung by bees, he's a better candidate. He actually has good stances and good plans to deal with certain things at the school. And I don't know what you stand for, like, at all. You haven't really talked about anything. And even though she said that to Clark, Clark is still mad. It's not until Lana later on says to Clark that, like, Clark, I know you're upset with Chloe, but if I was her, I would have done the same thing. I know you feel bad, but Chloe's just looking out for the best candidate for the school. She just wants the best person to win. It's not her fault. Don't be mad at her. And it's not until then, because Lana says it again, that Clark then goes and apologizes to Chloe and says that he understands where she's coming from. It's like, hot damn, dude. If Lana says anything, Clark's just going to go along with it. It's funny, because we all know that Clark is in love with Lana, but this is the most evident of how obvious it is that she can persuade his opinion just by saying anything. There is a side plot of this woman, Karen Castle, who at first Lex Luthor sees her as he's driving by and she's having car trouble on the road. He pulls over, obviously, because she's a very attractive woman, and that's Lex's kryptonite. And it's not long before Lex realizes, though, that, oh, she's a reporter. And she was sent by Lionel Luthor. Now, she denies having anything to do with Lionel. She talks about how she's just a new up-and-coming reporter, and she wants to just make her name off of getting the truth about Lex out there, and she's going to be on his side, and blah, blah, blah. There's even a scene where she pretends to be his masseuse in order to talk to him again, but now he caves in. I guess she gives a great massage. I wonder if he had a happy ending. But that all leads to, by the end of the episode, Lex finds her article, realizes that she was lying and that he's actually being written bad about by her. And so he confronts her about it, and she finally then admits that she was working for Lionel, all the way to the end of the episode where Lex is able to get in good with her boss at whatever newspaper place she works for. And he basically blackmails her into saying, hey, if you play ball with me on this article, then maybe you'll have a higher up position to go. Or if not, maybe not. Like, it's kind of wild, because even Karen Castle here, she admits that, like, Lex may be just as bad or worse than Lionel Luthor. And I find that interesting because Lex is spending so much time trying to prove that he's better than Lionel, or that he's not Lionel's son as far as behavior, that he's better than that. But there's been a few episodes in a row where he has shown sides of being that same conniving Luthor that's sort of in his blood. It makes you think that maybe Jonathan Kent was correct about him. But back to the main plot. So we find one of the candidates for the school presidency is this girl. I forget her name. I'll just call her the Bee Girl. So the Bee Girl is so obsessed with winning, and you find out that she somehow is able to control the bees. And at first I thought, is this like the Bee character that was also in the Flash and Arrow show? I think that character was played by Beth from The Walking Dead. Is this supposed to be like a similar character? Maybe there is a DC character that does have this whole bee stuff, but it's weird. And what's weirder is that later on, Chloe, of course, does her investigation skills. And Chloe finds out that this girl was attacked by like 1,000 bees. And she was allergic to bees. She should have died. But when she was attacked, she fell into this crater, which happens to have meteor rocks in it. And so the combination of the meteor rocks and the bee stinging connected her to the bees on such a level that now she's kind of the queen to the bees. Which I'm not saying that there's no interesting levels to that, but it's so rushed. It's so sort of just brushed by and not really dealt with. Like, I wanted to find this character, this bee girl, interesting. I wanted to connect to her. I wanted to sympathize with her and see her point of view, but we don't see her point of view. It's like you could say that, oh, maybe she's being bullied by one of the girls that she ends up attacking. Felice, I think the girl's name is, who's played by Shaylin Simmons, who's an actress that I remember seeing in so many things, so many other horror things. Final Destination 3. I think she's on the Supernatural episode, right? The Bloody Mary one. She's in a lot of horror stuff, this girl. And she's a bully-like character, right? She's a bitch to everybody. And the bee girl ends up sicking bees on her. And that scene actually was pretty intense because the principal finds the bully girl in her car, opens the car door, and the girl falls out covered in bees. It even looked like a practical effect. I don't know how they pulled that off. They ended up saying that that girl was stung so much worse than even the other kid, that she's in a coma. We don't even know if that girl ended up surviving. That was brutal. That was intense. But because it's so not spent time with, it's like you don't know how bad this bully girl was to the bee girl. Like, was it bad enough to warrant or deserve that? I don't think so. It doesn't seem like it from what we got. So I just wish we got some more like backstory on this girl. Maybe you could argue that there's been other episodes where we spend too much time with the freak of the week and it's either too boring or not interesting enough. I just felt like this actress, I don't know her. I don't recognize her from anything, but I feel like she was decent enough to where you could have done some more backstory stuff with her. Or who knows? Maybe if the whole arrangement of like Smallville in general, like if we had met some of these characters previously in previous episodes as background characters or side characters to build up to them being more front and center this time around, maybe that would have made us care more about everything that was going on. So because all these other kids are being attacked, obviously now Clark is next. And Lana offers to help Clark write his speech, his campaign speech. Which is interesting because not only is Lana willing to help Clark, they're spending a lot of time together, a lot more time together. And also, Lana is dealing with the fact that the Talon is struggling to get customers because I think a new coffee shop has opened down the street and they're stealing their customers. And so Lana's dealing with that. She's going back and forth. She's trying to ask Lex for help, but Lex says basically that, like, I don't have more of a stake in it like than you. I sure I put money in it, but you're running this day to day. You're so connected to it that like you have to figure this out on your own. You need to be creative. You need to think outside the box. You might even need to get down and dirty. So as she's figuring that out, she offers time to help Clark. And during that moment, it's actually a decent like horror type scene where Clark hears bee noises at the Talon. He uses his x-ray vision to see the bees coming through like the vents. That was cool. And he puts Lana in a room and the bees chase Clark into like the storage room. And it was cool because he rips off like the pipes and freezes all of the bees, seemingly killing them in that storage room. And I thought that was cool because it made me think of like, hey, one day Clark's going to have freeze breath. He doesn't have it yet. And it might have been really cool if he had it by now so that he could have used the freeze breath to do that to them. But he didn't. And so he saves Lana here. And also you see that Clark tries to meet with the bee girl. He goes to meet with her. And I was trying to figure out like what Clark's plan was. His plan was like, hey, I'm going to tell her that I dropped out. even though I didn't really drop out. I'm really going to accuse her of having something to do with all of the other bee attacks. And she goes, okay, Clark, well, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't stop me. And she, like, force thinks to the bees, gets the bees to go after Martha. Martha! Why did you say that name? BVS has ruined the name Martha, hasn't it? So it's a pretty cool scene of the bees going after Martha. Clark in slow motion, very cool effect, where he swoops in and saves Martha right before she gets attacked by the bees, puts her away. He goes back to the bee girl. And this confused me. Maybe if somebody else watched this episode or if they just know offhand what exactly happens here. Because Clark is talking to the bee girl, and she says, like, what happened to your mother? And he goes, like, she's fine, don't worry about it, I'm coming here to stop you. And then the bees come back to this girl's, like, basement or garage place, whatever it is, and Clark says to her, hey, make them stop. And the girl says, I'm not telling them to do this, they're attacking me. Like, the bees start breaking into the windows and they start attacking the bee girl. They turned on her. Why did they turn on her? What happened? What changed? I could see if the order of this was she had the bees attack Clark and Lana at the Talon, but Clark, because he froze them and killed some of them, the bees then turned on her for getting them killed. But that's not what happened, because after the freezing, they still listened to her by going after Martha. So I don't know where the disconnect happened. I don't know why the bees ended up turning on her this time around. Either way, it was a cool effect of Clark starting a fire with the propane gas in the garage. The whole thing blows up, killing the bees. He's able to protect the bee girl. It was a cool effect of Clark coming out of the burnt rubble, carrying the girl, like, absolutely looked like a Superman moment. And the girl just drops out. So it's like, well, does she still have control of the bees? She does, right? Technically, like, it's such a weird wrap up. It's almost like they didn't know how to wrap up this episode. I mean, she could have died in that explosion, but I guess they wanted Clark to save her, so you couldn't have her die, right? It's just very wonky, kind of the way how all of this is left. You see that Clark ends up losing the election, because at first I was like, oh, Clark's going to win, right? No, Clark loses because the first kid that got attacked by bees, somehow he won, even though he hadn't been around to campaign. And you would think all the stuff that Clark was doing, and, you know, he said he was getting invited to parties and he was living it up. I don't know how Clark lost, other than the fact that the show probably just didn't want Clark to be the class president going forward. So you see that Lana, she took Lex's advice about the other coffee house. I don't think it's the same coffee house that she used to work at, that coffee place that we used to go to all the time previously. But Lana said that she found out from a friend that they were hiding some health code violations that they didn't want people to know about. So Lana asked Chloe to investigate it, found out it was real, and then exposed them for it. So all of the customers came back to the Talon. Pretty wild. Lana was saying that she felt bad for doing that and that she felt like she did something dirty. But honestly, like, if the place really did have health code violations, I don't think Lana did anything wrong. I think that place was in the wrong, right? If they were hiding it and keeping it from people, like, what was the health code violations? Was it dirty in the kitchen? Was the coffee maker not clean? It made people sick. Come on now. And you see there's a cool moment where Lex shows up and Lex and Clark are talking about Clark losing the election. And I like this moment. Clark asks Lex if he had any, like, political aspirations, and Lex says, hey, one day I want to be the president. Which I love that, because it calls back to when that episode where the old lady saw the vision of Lex becoming the president in the white suit and all that stuff. Obviously, it's also a reference to the comic books where Lex becomes the president. But I wonder if this gets talked about anymore. I wonder if we get any more political aspirations of Lex. I think he runs for like senator or mayor or something, like much later on. But actual presidency, I wonder if that's ever called back to again. So I talked about Lex convincing the reporter to change her mind. And the episode ends with Lana wanting to hear Clark's speech that he never got to read out loud. And the way Kristen Cruick plays that scene of just being very bubbly, being very fun and just goofy, I like that. It's those moments where it's probably just Kristen being herself, like putting her own personality into the Lana character, because Lana has her moments of being annoying, but it's lighthearted moments like that that makes you see why Clark does like her as much as he does and why she is like the love interest. I wish this was more their dynamic. This was more their relationship. You don't have to force Lana to be constantly in danger or to be constantly nagging or to be constantly in disagreement with Clark. You could just have her be a super cool, nice person. And I don't think she was written like that enough. So guys, let me know in the comments below what you think of Drone. I thought it was fine. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.